quite a long time. I used to, when we were in Infinity, that was kind of multi-leveling, and I always hated that. I never wanted to go into like a multi-level thing, and so after about 5 or 6 years of that, that's when I kind of went off on my own. And I kind of had got my degree in nutrition, but then I was going to go the naturopathic route, and I spent years doing that. I hated every minute, every day. I knew I would never write a prescription. I just never. Some of you guys are probably medical doctors, but I just never wanted to do that. It's my personal belief. And my wife, she worked for American Airlines for 20-something years, and one day I just came home so depressed, and I just said, I'm done. I'll go build houses. I'll go do something, but I'm not going to write prescriptions for the pharmaceutical companies. And I said, if it's not something natural, holistic, whole food, then I'm not doing it. I just said, I like how the Koreans and the Japanese are just ginseng, turmeric, and she said, well, you fly for free, you know. And so over the next couple of years, I went to Korea like 45 times. I went to Japan, 20 probably, and I found some people that would take me into some of these little streets, these little alleys, and you're thinking, I'm about to get killed any second here, you know. But you'd walk into these rooms and there'd just be hanging plants, and they're grinding up stuff and cutting deer antler, and you're just going, wow, this is a different world, you know. But you know, I learned, old Chinese medicine it's really made sense to me, and that's what I believe. So I started formulating my whole new line from the Infinity stuff, and we really wanted a better way to be able to show how it got to the body on a cellular level. You know, we were doing that Infinity, and that's what this is. You hear a lot of doctors will say, you know, we don't want anything to do with the dark field microscopy. You know, well, this is a dark field, this is bright field, this is phase contrast, this is, you know, bringing it's a live blood analysis, not dry blood, you know. And so it's a whole different thing, and we can really get into how things are getting into your body on a cellular level. You know, all my golfers that he's talking about, and I used to work with the Suns and the Miami Heat, and you know, they're high. I call them like a proteinaholic, like an alcoholic, but they're proteinaholics. You know, they're just protein bars, protein shakes, protein this, protein. Thinking they're building muscle. Like he said, like Bill said, you know, you are what you digest, not what you eat. You know, you hear people say that all the time. You are what you eat, you are what you eat, but you are what you digest. You gotta always remember that. You know, if you don't digest your food, you don't benefit from your food. And so you need a way to be able to show how things are working. And so what we're gonna talk about tonight, if you'll look at your papers, we'll kind of go into the blood just a second, then we'll talk a little bit about nutrition. But your blood, basically your blood's made up of 3 or 4 different components. The main 3 things are, you have in a drop of blood, just one little drop, you have red cells, right here in the middle, red cells. You have 5 different kinds of white cells. You have the neutrophils, eosinophils, lymphocytes, monocytes, and then up here the basophil. Okay. White blood cells, you know, a lot of people think you have red and white cells, but you have 5 different kinds of white cells. Okay, and each one has a totally different job. Your white blood cells just live for a couple of days and then they die and get replaced with new cells. Your red cells live about 120 days, so quite a lot longer, almost 4 months. Your red cells are your oxygen carriers. Okay, let me get this one again here. I'm going to erase you. Just a second. That's not a very good eraser. So your red cells are just oxygen carriers. Every 20 seconds or so, a red cell's job is to run up to your lungs, grab a load of oxygen, and take that oxygen off into your body. So it's just like a little dump truck, just hauling oxygen all day long. It'll make, in 120 days, it'll make about 70,000 trips up to your lungs before it dies. Red cells like let's say this is your red cell. Inside of a red cell, you want your cells to be real dark and solid in the middle. So inside you have a little chemical called hemoglobin. You guys have heard of that? Hemoglobin. The heme is a protein that's just made up of iron. Basically, heme is iron. So the hemoglobin is actually what attaches on to the oxygen. When it gets to the lungs, it'll hold on to that oxygen. It's like little hands grab a hold of it, and it won't let that oxygen leave the cell unless it's passing a part of your body where there is an oxygen. Then it dumps it and turns around and heads back and gets more. So every trip up to the lung, it's filling up because it's full of hemoglobin. But like you women, when you have your periods, when you have your cycles, women lose about 85% of their hemoglobin each cycle. Okay. So now, see, the cell will only carry oxygen in this outside part. So that creates tired, fatigue, low energy, cramping, headaches. Another thing that just takes that out is heat. You know, if you're at the gym, you're on a walk, even like women when they're doing menopause, in their menopause, that hot flash will draw out the hemoglobin. So heat takes it out. And the last one is stress. Okay, those three things are going to really pull all this hemoglobin out of the cell. So every trip back up, see, it's not filling out, and you're gonna feel tired, and you're gonna experience problems. So, like, let's say you went to the doctor and you said, "Man, I have these headaches for a month, these migraines," and he's gonna take your blood and send it to the lab, and the lab's going to just look at your numbers. So they're going to take out your blood and they're going to send it to the lab. Normal iron or hemoglobin levels are between a 9 and a 10. Okay, so they're going to just wait for that report to come back. And when the test comes back, they're going to look at where your numbers are tonight. So let's see, 15. Sorry, things moving. So let's just say the day that they drew your blood, it came back and you were a 10. So they're going, well, your headache's not iron related because you're on the normal side of the fence. You know, it's got to be something else. You know, you're normal. But really anything from an 11 down has the same symptoms. So you can still have headaches and be in the normal range, but the day they took your blood, you were here. The next day you started your cycle and you lost 85%. So you dropped clear down here, boom, in one day. See, and now you're having cramps and everything. And over the next 8-10 days, you're building back up and getting back up to normal range. And then you go for a walk, or you go to the gym, or you go out and mow the lawn, and you get all hot and you drop down a little bit. And then you start building back up, and then you get in a car wreck or something major stress happens and you fall back a little bit more. See, and you might not even make it up to the normal, and then you cycle again. See, so you keep dropping fat further and further and further. So you kind of live in this world down here. You want to live way up here, cycling down to here. You know, don't ride the fence so close, you know, and you live in Arizona, so you're always hot, you know, you're always stressed. You're going to have that. So you're going to see iron deficiency more here in Arizona than almost any other state. Like you go up to Seattle or Portland, and you know, where the sun's not shine very much, and you don't see the iron deficiency like you do here. So that's a big thing. The purpose of those red cells carrying oxygen, when you think about, Bill said, you know, one of the main things that we need is oxygen. You know, the cells, think of your blood as like the water in a swimming pool. Like when the pH of a swimming pool gets kind of acidy, kind of acidic, you know, it turns green, algae, bacteria starts to grow, and it's getting taken over by that greenness, you know. And so you call the pool man and he puts a little chlorine, or if it's a salt pool, it puts some salt in there, and it creates oxygen. You know, it brings the pH back to an oxygenated environment, and the pool clears up, you know. Your blood's the same way. When you're a protein person and you pound the proteins every day, watch when you eat protein foods, meat, beans, nuts, eggs, how much more gassy, bloated do you feel? You know, Well, that's how it's affecting your blood when it's not digested. You're gonna turn your blood so acidic so fast that you're just like a magnet for bacteria, you know? Bacteria loves you at that point. So the purpose of our red cells is to keep our body oxygenated. You wanna keep that as full as you can so you're not a magnet. The second thing is you wanna eat more green foods. You know, like if you're feeling a little sore throat coming on, the worst thing you can do is go pound the proteins. You need to eat more green foods or a little lemon in your water. Eat these alkaline foods and bring yourself more alkaline than acidic. And so that's the purpose of your red cells, is your oxygen carriers. Your 5 white blood cells, like let's say again, like if you had a sore throat or something, you would see lots of neutrophils. So normally you should just see 1 to every 500 red cells, but if you had a sore throat, you would see lots of them. So your body's just it knows before you even know that you picked up some bacteria. So your neutrophils are your defenders, your cleaners. You'll watch them on the TV, they're just moving all over cleaning, and they're just active, real active. The eosinophil underneath, that's for allergies. Like if you were out in the yard mowing the lawn, you come in all sneezing and watery eyes, that's the one you would see more of. Okay, eosinophils. Lymphocytes, if you see a lot of lymphocytes, that's probably not a good thing. You know, lymphocytes can be something bad, you know, like cancers, it can be asthma, it can be several things, but when cancer's in the body, lymphocytes divide and they split, and each cell becomes another cell. One's called a T lymphocyte or a B lymphocyte. So like a person with leukemia, I mean, they're just like covered, you know, you just see them all over. And so you don't want to see a lot of those. I'll show you 1 or 2 when we get the blood up. When you see them, you don't want to see any movement in it, like the neutrophils or these other ones. You just want them dormant. They're just like a little fireman backed into the firehouse. There's no alarm going off. That's what you want. The monocyte, it's dormant most of the time. It stays dormant, and then when the neutrophil gets in trouble and he can't handle the job by himself, he'll get on the phone and call for some backup. So the monocytes come in and help out. Okay. Your basophil, the last white cell, is called the basophil. Your basophil it knows when the blood is real thick and sticky, okay, like these top pictures. Your blood needs to be separated and free flowing. Each cell, you know, like if I drew, like this is a little capillary, the opening of this capillary is about 5 microns in size. A red blood cell is about 7.2 microns in size. So red cells, to get through the capillaries, they actually need to be going in one at a time, and they'll actually still have to fold up to make them through. But if all of their cells are all piling on top of each other, see, then it makes it real difficult. That stacking of the cells is called rouleau. See that word rouleau? Rouleau is a French word. It means like a stacking. Like if you went to Las Vegas, you know, you have a roulette table. You know, that's a stacking of poker chips. Okay, or those little Rolo candies. You know, that's a stacking of chocolate. Bill. But so if all my cells are rouleaued, if you open this page up, you know, you'll see it says rouleau right here. See, rouleau resembles a pile of coins stacked on top of each other. Rouleau is caused by protein indigestion. Okay, rouleau causes poor circulation of the blood, therefore decreases the amount of oxygen and the amount of nutrients available for the body to use. This condition produces symptoms of fatigue, weakness, poor digestion, and edema. You know that word edema. Edema means swelling, inflammation. So when you digest protein, like you were saying, protein is broken down into amino acids, and amino acids build muscle, and muscle burns fat. But if you don't digest it and it goes to the blood, see, now that's going to create a real thick, sticky blood. And so if the cells touch each other, they'll stick together and it starts protein linkage. Then it gets to rouleau. Then it can even get into this next stage. It's called erythrocyte aggregation. Erythrocyte means red cell. So these cells start to aggregate and really bunch up. And so the first place our body will take that protein to, now it's into the blood. See, now it's going to go straight to your liver. Okay? And proteins, you know, like let's say, let me draw this. So again, you know, people say you are what you eat, but you are what you digest. So let's just say that this is your stomach here and your intestinal tract kind of going on down. You guys see that? So every day, see, you eat. Well, before I go there, when you're born, we're born with these little hairs, these little fibery hair-looking things that line our stomach and our intestinal tract. Those little hairs are called villi. Okay. When our moms breastfeed us, when we're babies, you know, before their milk actually comes through their breast, they have those few days of colostrum and probiotics and, you know, those good bacteria that come first. So the good bacteria actually has 3 names. They call it our friendly flora. The most common is called the probiotics. So that word probiotics, pro means for, biotic means life, for life, like antibiotics against life, right? So as these probiotics come in, see these hairs, these fibers are there to catch them. So they all start finding a little garage to park in. Once they're locked in, see, they're not leaving. They're like little seeds, and they plant in and they grow and they spread out and they form what's called the mucosal lining or the mucosal membrane. The medical word, they call that the microbiome of the stomach. Okay, so once we have this probiotic layer, see, that's my immune system now. That's going to keep everything inside and won't let things leak out into the bloodstream before I digest them. So it gives me a lot more time, a lot more protection. It's like the old Star Trek days, the little force field he would throw up, you know, keep the Klingon from getting them. That's what your immune system is. So see, every day you eat, as your foods enter your body here, see, they're full of vitamins and minerals and things you're going to need to run your body, but you got to digest them first, okay, and then they're assimilated. So there's 2 ways you eat every day. One way is you eat raw things. You'll have a salad, you'll have an apple, you'll have a banana. Whenever you put something raw into your body, raw foods have enzymes. So look at your little pyramid paper there, okay? See, these are all the key digestive enzymes that run our body. So you have an enzyme up here called lipase. Lipase breaks down the fats, the oils, your Chick-fil-A nuggets, whatever, you know. You're under that, it's called lactase. Lactase breaks down dairy foods, milk, cheese, ice cream. Over here on the right, the protease digests protein foods, your meat, beans, nuts, eggs. Amylase breaks down like sugars and carbohydrates, and the last one down here in the bottom is called cellulase, and that breaks down like your bread, grains, seeds, nuts. So anything I put into my body raw, see, raw foods will always have the digestive enzymes or the capability to take care of themselves. Let's say you're eating an apple and the phone rings, and you put your apple down to get on the phone, and you finish your call and you go back 10 minutes later to get your apple, and it turned brown while you were gone. You know, that's already processing, you know, it's already digesting. You open up a banana or an avocado, or you left a piece of meat sitting there on the table. You were going to cook up some hamburgers and you forgot, and you had to run and leave the house or something. You left that sitting there and you didn't put it away. That meat's going to be brown when you get back, right? Because it still has enzymes. So anytime I eat something raw, it's like 100% you're going to benefit from that food. Okay, you're gonna enjoy it, and it's gonna take care of itself. You know, like if you go to Korea or Japan, every time you go over there, if you've ordered something cooked, you ordered some Korean barbecue, you don't even ask for it. But before your meal comes out, they'll bring you out 8 little side plates of cucumbers, radishes, kimchi, you know, tofu, pineapples, all these little plates of raw things to be your digestion aid. Okay, we don't eat like that though. We eat about, here in the United States, we eat about 96% of our foods cooked. Okay, anything that you eat or put in your mouth that's been heated, processed, microwaved, pasteurized, at 118 degrees, enzymes die, okay? at that temperature. That's our summer in Arizona. That's not that hot. So at 118 degrees, they die. And so I want to show you, this is these are two famous hamburgers. This one I bought 15 years ago. So this one is from August 10th of 2010. This is a hamburger there. That's it. So that's still has the cheese and the lettuce and everything. I mean the bun there. This hamburger right here is a very famous hamburger. This thing's been all over the world. It's been to Korea 3 times, China, Dubai, Scotland, Mexico City several times, all over the United States. I bought this when I met them, met him. This is almost 27 years old, okay? This is a Big Mac from February 19th, 1999. That's the hamburger right there, okay? Almost 27 years old. That's been on a TV show even. That thing's been really, okay? So whenever you eat something cooked, it's dead. That's a dead food, okay? It's cooked. It's coming into your body without any potential way to break itself down. You are what you digest. And so now I've got to go looking for something. I can either bring in a little bit of salad or some fruit, some pineapple, some bromelain or something like that, see? And it's going to help me. But if I don't have anything raw to add to my meal, I got chicken and potatoes and corn. If there's nothing raw there, see, then I've got to go to my backup. Plan B is my pancreas. Okay, so when you're born, your mom fills up your pancreas with enzymes. So just think of your pancreas as this little enzyme bank. And whatever you were given, it's just like a little ATM machine. See, if I don't have raw, I've got to go to the bank and take a little withdrawal today. Every day, until, like you'd like a little ice cream tonight before you go to bed. The grocery stores, they know if they cook it and take out the lactase enzyme, see, now it'll stay like that hamburger, it'll stay in the grocery store for a couple of months versus raw milk that would be spoiling and then they'd be thrown out the back door. See, so every time you have a little bit of milk or ice cream or cheese, you're coming to the bank to take a little withdrawal of some lactase every day, until one day you go to the bank and there's no more left, You've run the bank out of lactase, so now you're called lactose intolerant for the rest of your life. And our grandparents never got lactose intolerant because they all had a milk cow in the barn. I grew up milking a cow, and so I know that works, it's raw milk, it has enzymes, it'll spoil. You got to take care of that milk. But our kids think milk comes from Walmart or Fry's or wherever you shop, they didn't know, oh, cow, that came from a cow, but they're gonna probably run out of enzymes for lactase before they're out of high school. That's how quickly.
Are you saying once you run out, it's gone?
Gone, okay? You'll be lactose intolerant for the rest of your life. You can have some milk as long as you add some enzymes while you're eating that. I'll show you an example of that. I brought a couple of puddings here, okay? So you can see these little snack pack puddings here. Tissue or something. Do you guys have a little trash can or something? I'll just put it right here. Make a mess here. So, see, these have been cooked. They can sit, this has an expiration until November of 2026. It's a whole nother year. Unrefrigerated dairy, I should tell you. So can I have you stir that one up?
Sure.
So she's enjoying her dinner. I'm gonna have the dinner, I don't have anything raw to add to this meal, it looks pretty good, I want this. I don't wanna go to the bank, I might not have any enzymes left, so I'm gonna supplement some enzymes. See, if I'm already lactose intolerant, I can actually take some extra enzymes this way. So I would just swallow them, but I gotta open them up. Like your animals, like a dog or cat, you might have a dog at home and you give them some dog food out of a can. See, and they can't digest that, and so it upsets their stomach, and they'll go outside and take them for a walk, and they'll stop and eat a little bit of grass. They're looking for some enzymes pretty quick, or you'll throw them a bone and they'll take it in the backyard and bury it and cover it up, and the dirt has enzymes. enzymes. So it'll make the bone soft so they can come back and get it, you know?
Is that why a dog will eat poop?
I don't know. I would get rid of that dog. So
It's not my dog.
So let's take yours. So she didn't start out with enzymes. She didn't add anything to her meal. See, so she didn't really change it. See, she didn't digest it. It's just still pretty thick. Okay. I took the enzymes with my meal.
Oh my God.
See, it's already digested. So you are what you digest, not what you eat. You know. So if you're already lactose intolerant, see, then you need to. You know, you want that little ice cream sundae or that brownie with ice cream on it, you've got to take some enzymes, you know, so you don't have problems. If you're a sugar person, you got a sweet tooth, and you like a little candy or something, see, every day you got to go get some amylase until one day you go to the bank and there's no more. See, so now you're
There's no
a
natural
diabetic.
replenishment of
There's
those.
no more replenishment.
So how did the ATM get filled to begin with?
Your mom. Your mom fills you up. So if grandma didn't have a lot of enzymes to pass on to her, let's say she, during her pregnancy with your mom, she had gestational diabetes real bad. You know, she didn't have a lot to even give your mom, you know. She delivered her mom and then she can kind of handle it for a while, but she'll run out pretty quick. But see, your mom came into this world with less than your mom, her grandma, your grandma. So what your mom gave you is even less than she got.
So if I was
That's genetics.
If I was allergic to milk when I was born,
You didn't have it from the start. Very good. Yeah. Just like if you're, you know, a type 1 diabetic, you know, you were born that way, but you become a type 2 diabetic just because you run out of enzymes. If you eat sugar every day, you use up the bank. See, whatever you don't digest, if it doesn't have enzymes here, it doesn't have enzymes, you're going to throw it to the blood. See, and once it's into the blood, see, now it's going to cause problems. Now you got all this undigested fats in your blood, all this undigested sugar in your blood, all this undigested protein in your blood. See, now, because you didn't digest that protein and create amino acids and build muscle, now you put it into the bloodstream. And see, now your blood makes these little cycles through your liver and your kidney. Your liver has over 600 jobs to do. It's pretty important. You have one to take out the trash and you can't even do it. I'm teasing. This guy's got 600 and then you add the kidneys on that. Okay, so the more I keep throwing into the bloodstream undigested, the more that's going to pass through the filters every day. Pretty soon, doesn't take very long, the liver's full and the door closes. It's like a hotel. He puts up the no vacancy sign and says there's no more coming in. There's no more room. See, so now your blood's just circulating like a lazy river. And you go to the doctor and he says your triglycerides are like off the chart. You got a very fatty liver. Your glucose numbers, you're off the chart. These fats and sugars are all sticking together. You're forming plaque in your arteries. These little clots are like this little tube right here. Where's this little tube? Let's just say that this is a little artery in my leg. And these are the red cells, and they're full of oxygen from my lung, and they're trying to get oxygen down to my foot. And it hits a little bit of sugars and fats here, that cholesterol. See, now the heart, you know, has to really push it. So when you have high blood pressure, that's fat, sugars, or proteins in front of the blood. It's like going to the Dairy Queen and getting a big old strawberry shake, and you go away just enjoying that strawberry shake until the strawberry hits the bottom of the straw. Now you have to really suck it up, and you know. But low blood pressure is the diastolic pressure, the pressure coming back into the heart. So high blood pressure, low blood pressure, it's got to be fat, sugars, and proteins. That's what's your problem. So when the doctor says, you know, you got a very fatty liver, or you got, let's just put you on some statin drugs. Let's put you on, you know, Eliquis, Lipitor, Coumadin, whatever. That wasn't an enzyme. That didn't actually go get rid of the problem. It just thinned the blood and dumps it back into the filter. You look at the side effects of all those. They're destroys of your liver.
So you said like you regain that bank of proteins from your mom's milk. So is baby formula just like the enzymes if they can't have it? Or
No,
what?
baby formula doesn't have enzymes.
So
It's cooked,
what happens to
so it doesn't
those
have
babies?
enzymes. Any liquid things don't have enzymes. It has to be pasteurized, and so it's coming in. Your body still has to try to work and try to digest it.
So is there like protein bank I guess like lower than those who were breastfed?
Yes, 100%. And not only that, they don't have the mucosal lining because they didn't get breastfed too, so they don't have the colostrum and probiotics to start their life all protected.
Wasn't that the issue with peanut allergy?
So every allergy, almost every single allergy on the planet, you can go get all these 50 different tests done on your back and all that, but it's always a protein. You know, if you're allergic to gluten intolerant, it's the protein part of the wheat germ. You know, if you're lactose intolerant, it's the protein part of the whey. You know, if you're allergic to peanuts, it's the protein part of the peanut, the nut. You know, it's always going to be protein. Protein, if you understand, you know, protein can be the best thing, but it can be the worst thing too. You know, it can hurt you big time. Pain in your body is inflammation. Inflammation is undigested protein. The first place your body, see when the liver's full of protein, the liver sends these proteins back into the blood as protein fibers. They're called fibrin or fibrinogen. Those protein fibers are going to go wherever the blood goes, okay? So the first place our body stores protein is in our back, neck, shoulders. That's where you're always going to feel, you go out and have a big old chimichanga or carne asada, you know, you're going to feel it in your neck and your back the next day, you know, if it didn't digest. For a golfer, all my golfers, that's the worst place. They need to be all tight and stiff. I mean, I call them proteinaholics, you know, they're just protein every day, just slamming protein, but it's coming in cooked. The meat's cooked, the eggs are cooked, the beans are cooked, you know, it's not digesting, it's not building muscle, it's creating pain and inflammation. And once that liver's full, see these little fibers, they can turn on you real quick. They can stay in your blood and form these uric acid crystals. So now you got crystals getting into your joints and causing arthritis and gout and bursitis. You know, so you didn't digest it. Now you're creating pain and inflammation in your body. Protein fibers can also form cysts and tumors in your body. You know, when you have cysts, that's fibroid cyst or fibroid tumors that's made up of mostly undigested protein fibers. You remember in 2017, he called me up one day and he's just bawling, just crying like a baby on the phone. And I was going, what in the world is going on? And he's going, just got off the phone with my mom down in Australia and she was diagnosed this morning with a big, massive brain tumor. And he said, they gave her 4 weeks to live. He said, there's nothing they can do. It's inoperable. She's going to come to my house until she passes. But he said, I remember when we were walking in Hawaii at the Tournament of Champions every year, they go there. And we were talking about his dad died when he was 12 to cancer, and we were talking about that. And I said, you know what? My wife just went through some breast tumors, and I said, we didn't do anything but just use the enzymes to get rid of it. And a couple of months we had it, you know, a 9-centimeter tumor was gone. Oh. You know, and he was just like blown away, and we were just kind of talking like that, just small talk. But he said when my mom called this morning and said about this tumor, he said, I remembered that story that you told me. He said, what did you do for your wife? He said, if this was your mom, what would you do or whatever? He was just kind of, and he said, or is it just too late to help her? And I said, to me it's not. I said, once it's in the blood, that's the only, it went to the brain. It could have gone to her breast or the ovaries or the lymph nodes or wherever. I said, hers went to the brain. I said, but that's how you have to go get it. Literally, you have to get in there to the bloodstream with the enzymes. You got to clean up her liver. My liver, kidney, there's not too many medications or drugs that they can put you on to clean your liver. You know, that has to be usually from a plant, like milk thistle, dandelion root, barberry root, fennel root, turmeric, things like that. My liver, kidney, you just take one bottle kind of every year. You know, if you'll do a liver cleanse, these people that have already been to my place, they know that The liver is the key thing, and it's got over 600 jobs. So you got to clean up her liver, and then you got to get into the bloodstream. I said, she doesn't have 4 weeks or a month, or a year. She has just 4 weeks to live and not 4 months or a year. So I said, she's gonna have to take these enzymes like every single hour, like even wake up all night, every hour, taking them. And I said, that's the only way. And so he said, just overnight that stuff to me. He said, I'll put her on it. And so that was like in 2017, that was like the last day of June when I did this. He was putting her on a plane. She was going to be there in a couple of days, like the 2nd of July. And so he was going to put her on this. And so he did all of July. She was taking them. A month later, like on August 3rd, he calls me up crying. And I'm thinking, oh, good, she's gone. And I didn't even almost dare ask. And finally, I said, how's your mom? He goes, this is a happy cry. He said, we're walking out of the hospital right now. He said, I wish you could see this picture. I'll kind of show you. This is her. He said, I'm sending you a picture right now. He said, this is her MRI. He said, that is the tumor. You can see that white tumor there on the side. He said, this morning the doctors couldn't find it. He said, it's actually gone, 100%. He said, it did just reduce it, it's gone. He said, you just saved her life, And, it's just enzymes are amazing. And enzymes are the key to your life. If you run out of enzymes, things pass and things go down quick, And so try not to run this bank out. When you, I don't want to keep you guys so long, but one thing I want to talk about, like, way up in your brain, right behind your eyes, right in the middle of your skull, you have 2 little things that run your body. They're like your computer. One's called the pituitary gland, the other hypothalamus gland. And they know everything that's going on. Around your esophagus and your neck here, you have your thyroid. Okay? Way down low, right in your lower back, we'll put them clear down here. Right in the lower back, you have what's called your adrenal glands. Okay, your adrenals are sitting on top of your kidneys. Probably got a picture of it here. People don't know that's where they. You can see that picture. See, they're actually sitting right on your kidneys, right in your lower back. Okay, your adrenals and your thyroid, they coordinate all day long to produce all your hormones. They're like my twins. They just know everything that happens, they know what the other one's doing. So they're coordinating all day long to produce like serotonin, dopamine, estrogen, testosterone, melatonins, adrenalins. And so they're just always talking. A lot of times the adrenals are like first string in the game. These guys are like second string. Whenever stress happens, let's say you have a cup of coffee or you have a Monster drink or Coke or something. See, the brain goes, I really don't like that caffeine in me or that sugar. The brain picks that up and he doesn't go to the thyroid for help. He'll go straight to the adrenals every time. And the adrenals know that you just had some coffee or whatever, and it's going to shoot out into the bloodstream a hormone called adrenaline. Like a drag racer has that little nitrous button, he gives him that extra power. That shot of adrenaline is actually to speed up your metabolism to get that out of you quicker. You think, oh dang, that woke me up and got me to work today. I'll do that again tomorrow. So you just pull back into Starbucks every day. Pretty soon the adrenals don't perform like they did last year. Now you got to have an afternoon candy bar, not just the morning cup of, something else to get you through the day. When your adrenals are that stressed, they're working hard every day. See, then something major happens, grandma dies or something major in your life. I don't want to get mad at grandma, but stress, when a major stress hits you, when your adrenals are already stressed, they're done. And so now the adrenals start to produce a different hormone that he's going to send out into the bloodstream, and that's called cortisol. See, so now you got all this huge amount of cortisol hitting the blood. Cortisol eats muscle. Muscle burns fat. So if you're taking away muscle, your body is storing belly fats. That's right where it's going to go, is your belly. Okay, there's not, you could go to the gym 5 hours a day, you could go to Bill's and you're still not gonna lose weight, you know. That is a killer. See, cortisol, you know, your blood goes through your heart 2 times every minute, you know, your heart, that's probably the most important muscle you have in your body. And it's destroying it. So you're gonna have reduced cardiac output, hypertension, heart arrhythmia, you know, heart attacks. You go, oh yeah, Joe, he died of a heart attack today. He must have been real stressed. Stress got him, you know. No, stress is a word, it's the cortisol that got him.
What causes it? The
Cortisol is stress, you know, any kind of physical or emotional stress. It can be working out too much, it can be food, whatever, you know. You could go to the gym 5 hours a day and you just can't lose. But see, the worst thing that cortisol does is it destroys muscle, which is your mucosal lining. See, so cortisol can open up this mucosal lining just so quick. Drinking carbonated drinks can open that up. Different things can open this up. And so now you eat something and there's some bad bacteria on your food, a little salmonella, E. coli, H. pylori, something like that. See, now the bad bacteria, the gate's open, he can get out and he's gonna get into your blood and you get sick. So you go to the doctor and you say, Doc, man, I've had this sore throat for a week. And he, oh yeah, you picked up some bacteria, I can fix that, I'll put you on an antibiotic. Right? Which is against life. So it's going after the bacteria like it's supposed to, but it gets all the good stuff too. See, so when you take an antibiotic, you just created what's called the leaky gut. Now things come in and they're out before the pancreas even blinked. He didn't even know that there was food there. That's how fast it leaves. You know, so, you know, and down in the intestinal tract, when you lose that, see, now when the major part of the foods come down here and you get constipated, but it creates IBS, irritable bowel, diverticulitis, Crohn's, you know, and it's just a vicious cycle. Things just aren't processing. You know, to whatever you're born with in this pancreas, it's not going to give up its enzymes unless it's actually told to. You know, it's waiting. It's just sitting back waiting for the call. So when food touches your tongue, like kind of like what Bill was saying, people eat so fast, you know. When food touches your tongue's saying, is it cooked or raw? Does it have enzymes or not? Most of it's cooked. So your tongue will release a little bit of lipase off of your tongue to start digestion. Remember as a kid, you're told, you know, slow down, chew your food. You know, that's to start digestion. And as soon as it knows, the brain's going to send a message to your gallbladder. Your gallbladder has one job, to send in acid into the stomach. Okay, it's called hydrochloric acid, bile. So as this acid comes in, see, it changes the temperature, like heats the stomach up. Once it reaches a certain pH, that's the alarm. Now the pancreas knows it needs to give up some enzymes. So to digest your food, that has to happen, this has to happen, that has to happen before it does happen. Let's say you guys are out on date night tonight and you're at a restaurant and every time the waiter comes by, they fill your water cup up and you drink it down. You diluted the water, the acids. You drink something carbonated with your meal. You have a little Dr. Pepper, or Coke, or Perrier water, you know, any kind of LaCroix or something, carbonated. Anything carbonated, carbonic acid mixes with hydrochloric acid and it neutralizes it. It just stopped digestion by more than 14 hours.
Is there a test that can be done to determine how many enzymes you have left in your pancreas?
I don't know of any. You just by how you digest things and how you feel when you eat certain foods. That's the only way I know. Do you know, Bill? I don't know of any way.
Does the bacteria in the gut lining excrete enzymes? I can't remember.
Probiotics are like their own world.
No, if you have good bacteria, yeah.
They're your absorber. They create. They formulate stuff. They formulate vitamins even.
What about enzymes?
They don't make enzymes.
Okay. So when.
Oh, go.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
So if a child has a poor supply of enzymes and then the mucosal lining is thin.
I was down in Mexico
skip
City.
the antibiotics completely. Say they don't take antibiotics. Are there ways you set up? You can't replenish the enzymes. Can you give them more of a fight in the lining.
Yes.
Um,
Like my digestive enzymes, I used to have a separate probiotic, but now they're together.
okay.
So every time you're taking enzymes, you're planting seeds. I was down in Mexico City in June. I go down every 2 months and do clients down there. But they brought this little 1-year-old baby in, and it was just like a limp noodle. I mean, he couldn't even hold his head up and cranky. But she said he's 1 year old, but he had like 3 months weight. He was like, they called it failure to thrive. He had cystic fibrosis. He had just everything. But when I pulled his blood up, and the mom was saying, "Oh, he cries all night." And I said, "He's starving to death. He doesn't have any nutrition. His body's, he just not look at. He's got 3 months. He looked like a little, almost like he's been in prison for, without food." It was sad. It was really sad. But I pulled his blood up, and I have pictures of it. But I said, "This is probably the worst blood I've seen in 28 years." I said, his blood is so, you see in that picture, these cells all stuck together right there, that urethra, it was worse than that. You could not even see one little cell. It was so clumped together, it just looked like a sponge. I said, he is just not getting any kind of nutrition. There's zero enzymes happening here. This poor pancreas probably isn't even functioning, And I said, this is on very, very, very dangerous. I said, he could have a stroke, he could have a heart, that's like a clot to you, And I said, you're gonna have to get my enzymes and like open them up and put them in a little cup and put some water in there and get a little syringe and pull it up and then just stick that in his mouth, push it into him like 5 times a day, just every couple hours. And so she did that for the end of June, July, and then I went down in August. And when they brought him in, he was almost back to his normal baby weight. He was happy. But when I pulled his blood up, they were just almost like these perfect cells. It totally changed his life. Just a little bit of enzymes. That's what it did. And so that's what you'll see with enzymes. The very, very last thing, and then I'll pull up your blood and we'll get you guys out of here. Every single red cell and every single white blood cell, they're made inside your bones. Okay? When you're making cells, like if you were going to make your husband a birthday cake, and you go to the cupboard and you got your eggs and your flour and your oil and, you get all the ingredients out and put it in a bowl and you got a nice little cake going in the oven, But if you go into the cupboard and you're going, darn, I don't have any eggs. I got to go to the store and I barely have enough oil to oil the pan, let alone put it in there. And so, but he's on his way home and I'm going to just go ahead and make it without the eggs. That cake's not going to come out very good. When your body's making cells in the bones, the 2 key ingredients it's going to need to have is B12 and folate. Okay, folic acid, folate. Those 2 ingredients are key to make every single cell come out like a cookie cutter's punching them out, just perfectly round, perfectly the same size. If you have that, your cells should just look like just perfect, every single cell, just like that picture there. But if you're deficient, when you get to about 40, you actually stop making B12, and so you go into menopause. Men start having prostate problems and stuff like that. But these things are key. If I pull up your blood today and I see you have small cells, those are called microcytes. Or great big large cells, those are called macrocytes, or oval shaped cells, those 3 pictures. If you look at macro, oval, see these are all of vitamin B12 folic acid deficiency. So I didn't even have enough to make my cells come out. They're coming out all different shapes and sizes. My cells get first dibs. They get whatever they need to make cells, because if you don't have cells, you die. So your cells come out first. But see, your thyroid and your adrenals, to make all your hormones, serotonin, dopamine, estrogen, they need B12 and folic acid too. So if I don't even have enough to make my cells come out, there's no leftover to send to the adrenals or the thyroid. See, my adrenals are making cortisol. They're so stressed. It's like the coach says, you go sit on the bench. You got 4 fouls. You're not worth anything to me right now. So he's kind of out of the picture. your thyroid's kind of left to do all the work, and he's freaking out. He's going, you know, what do? I can't make hormones without these guys. Your hair's falling out, your nails are brittly, you've got anxiety, depression, you can't sleep. You know, you go to the doctor and he says, you got hypothyroidism, you got Hashimoto's or whatever. They're going to put you on a thyroid medication. How many of you guys are probably on one? You know, but the more you take of a thyroid medication that's coming from an animal like a cow or a pig, your pancreas, your thyroid thinks, well, darn, I don't need to work if you're giving me what I can make. I'm just needing some vitamins here. If you give me some B12 and folic acid, I'll make that for you. You know, the longer you keep taking that, the less your thyroid will work. You know, it's just like, you hear people say, how long have you been on that thyroid medication? And they'll say 8 years, and I'm going, when's that going to start kicking in for you? You know, it's just not going to happen. You know, and so this is the key thing. If you're pregnant, you can't make a baby if you don't have these two things. That's the number one thing in a prenatal. Okay, so it's very, very, very key.